the right people supporting you, right? To understand what your strengths are versus the team that you'll need to support you and what you want their strengths to be. But a part of that is also making sure you have an engaged team. And a lot of that is communication, right? You communicate. Sometimes you overly communicate. That's fine. I think that just brings across a lot more sincerity and really helps build that team and their buy-in to what you're trying to accomplish. Points to ponder. How will you find out your management team? How might your role change as the business evolves? How can you hire the best people for your team? What sort of outside resources should you bring in and when? Do you need an advisory board or board of directors? Help. Okay. Okay. So beyond your leadership, what skills, knowledge, and expertise do you bring to the venture, and where are your weak? There you go. In blind spots. Sorry, Nez, I was way too close to the. In blind spots that could create operational voids with the business. Some keys to your success will be to figure out what key tasks have to be completed, who will complete them, how to best complete them, both from a functional and financial standpoint, how to evaluate results. You as an entrepreneur need to decide how to accomplish all the tasks. Knowing what you need in management, team members will begin knowing yourself or with knowing yourself. So as we go through this, about halfway through this, when I get to a slide, I'm going to open up the floor to answer a few questions. And what we'll do is we'll kind of break off into smaller groups of 2, 3, whatever you decide. But I really want you guys to think about how some of the experiences you've had with recruiting and a positive and negatives, what's the worst experience, what's the best experience. I want you to think about you as a team member working for another organization or a boss or, an entrepreneur, a CEO, whatever it may be, what some of your best experiences were with certain organizations and why, as well as what was some of the jobs you kind of maybe wish you hadn't taken, but you've taken lessons away from saying, yeah, I'm never going to do that. So just give it some thought as we go along. We will break off into some groups at some point so you guys can talk about it. And everybody online will open that up for discussion. I'll give you guys a cue when we get there. Refine working with your management team. Make the most of your team. Keep team members current on business and market developments. Seek team member input when you develop your vision and plan to achieve it. Update team members on the company's progress towards its goals. Solicit input on key decisions. Periodically assess the needs of an organization in talent, skills, and structure of the team. So to point 3, how many of you guys have heard about OKRs or KPIs or organizational? Okay, so that's kind of what that is establishing your goals as an organization and then figuring out how your team can meet those. And performance indicators would be how you measure the performance based on those OKRs. Oh, I see an arrow moving. Nope. Okay. Use the following checklist as a tool to ensure that you don't miss some important functions you should cover. Create mission and values. Determine the direction of business, its mission and values. Overall management. Manage all operations and responsible for all outcomes. Marketing. Understand industry and customer motivations. Develop brand image. Create promotions and advertising. Sales, organize and or conduct sales operations, including forecasting and monitoring. Administration, organize administrative functions, purchase supplies and equipment, maintain records. Finances and accounting, we all love that one. Seek funding for business operations, trade, bookkeeping. I swear, handle bookkeeping. I have the most respect for these people right here. It is the most boring job ever, but man, manage cash flow, monitor and analyze financial performance. Technology and communications. Manage technology, internet access, website, phones, and building security. I'm a tech girl, so I'm actually going to come back to that one. Maintenance, keep machines running, keep space clean and safe, maintain building and grounds. That's, of course, if you have a shop. If you're working from home, that's more of an equipment thing. Product development, develop new products or services to sell customers. Reach, innovative, and or develop. Manufacture, Manufacture items, create products or services, manage projects, manage client projects or in-house change efforts, human resource management, develop descriptions, recruit, hire, find workspace, implement regulations, develop policies, and handle compensation and benefits. Direct and motivate people, motivate and reward, deal with performance problems, communicate direction, delegate tasks, monitor performance, create shared goals, promote teamwork. Training and development, train, develop, and develop workers so they can perform their jobs. They're motivated to stay with your company. Distributorship products, organized service delivery. So let's talk about technology and communications. As your team grows and as your company grows, the technology that you may need to support your organization will grow as well. First, it may be a spreadsheet to track all your customers, and eventually moving to HubSpot to have a better, or something similar, Salesforce, whatever it may be, to help really track your customers and the data and have a hub for marketing and everything, so everything consistently lives in one place. So technology is something that you will kind of need to assess at each kind of milestone, I guess, as your company grows. So motivate and reward. You guys would be surprised how important this is. So I worked for an organization, it's for a few years, and I managed the site under the VP. It's TELUS International. It's not too far. It's here in Vegas. And it's a site of about 1,000 people, right? So you're really, really challenged at how to motivate the people that come through there. I did something as simple as I dropped off, I think it was about 50, and I did it in Austin and here in Vegas. And I had the one shipped in Austin. Do you guys know those elves on the shelves? So I literally put like 50 out saying, grab them, be creative, send us a pic, email it to me, and you get a prize depending on who gets the most creative. Man, these things were everywhere. People were having so much fun with them. The weirdest places, like, I remember walking into a meeting room and one was just hanging from like, and I'm like, okay. So, but people loved it. Like for them, it was something fun to do. It was something, you know, it was literally like a $15 gift card to Starbucks. But the fact that they just had the opportunity to move these things around and create stories and, you know, all these different things, that's something that kept them engaged. Just fun little things like that that you wouldn't really spend a lot of money on, but people had a lot of fun with, right? And for a site of about 1,000 people, you need to get creative because you don't have a ton of money to do these things. So know that motivating people is worth it. So think about creative ways to do it, right? Training and development. The one thing that I will say about training and development, and I know I have one HR individual in here with me, is try to refresh training annually, just to make sure you go back, you take a look at it, offer to review the training again with your employees. I live by that. I try to do an annual refresh just so that they are on board of what, not only what we're doing, and you know, they understand what a lot of our important rules are. But if anything has changed within that year, in most organizations, starting up, they constantly will, right? You'll change and evolve as you go through. So try to touch base. Okay, total compensation. Did you guys know that there's all this stuff you need to think about? So direct compensation is your base pay. It's either wages or salary, incentives, commission, probably more for sales, piece rate bonuses, stock options, profit sharing, gains sharing. For paid time not to work is vacations, breaks, holidays, sick days, jury duty, something to think about. Insurance plans, basic stuff is like medical, dental, and life. Some people offer pet insurance. I have 2 French bulldogs. Believe me, a year ago, I wish I would have gotten pet insurance. Security plans, so pension, social security, disability, insurance, employee services, educational assistance, recreational programs, food services. I know a lot of organizations also do like a day off for giving back. So, and it's normally a paid day off, which would probably fall under pay for not time work, but it's also a great way to engage your employees and give them something, some time to do something that they love. Okay. Refine recruiting and hiring. Don't hire for experience alone. Strong cultural fit is at least as important. So I will tell you, throughout my career, anytime that I've recruited and hired anybody, and I've been in management for a while now. I don't want to talk about how old I am, but it's been a while. I've always done at least the first round of interviews, and then I let my team do the second, and I'm not there. And I'm not there because normally I'll know who's going to be a good fit for my team. The worst thing you can do is hire somebody that will disrupt the way your team works. And that's really important, right? So I'm not saying don't hire somebody that isn't skilled. I'm saying if you have two equally skilled people and one's a better fit for your team, even though you may like the other person better, go for the one that's a fit for your team. They need to work with them more than you do. You want to make sure that that feng shui of your team is probably the best way to put it, isn't messed up. And I do that all the time. And then I'll let my team go and I'll review the questions. I'm like, okay, what do you want to ask? And we'll go over it. And then they'll say, okay, have at it. Let me know your feedback. And it always works because here's one thing that happens. One thing that I know is that my team's always going to give me honest feedback. The second thing that I know is if my team is a part of that decision, they're more likely to be not only welcoming, but supportive in their training, supportive in their growth, and really being a successful part of that team. So these are all important things that I have learned throughout my career that I need to. I have hired people that I like that maybe weren't the best fit for my team. Very early on in my career, was not a great idea. I'll tell you that much. At all. Trust me. Learned that lesson from me. So attracting qualified applicants, quality of life, challenging work, and learning opportunities, good management, compensation, sense of purpose. Sense of purpose. So that could be something as easy as, I mean, they're going to buy into your whole, if they're hiring or working for you, of course, they want to make sure you're successful. But sense of purpose to me also could mean like a day in, to go be able to give back to the community, to a charity that they love. So things like that is something that I'd actually look for. So recruiting, employee referrals, university networks, placement agencies, investors, and online listings. Digital recruiting, Indeed, ZipRecruiter, LinkedIn, Snag a Job, expanded talent pools. Is everybody here on LinkedIn? How much time do you guys spend a week growing your network? You spend more time on LinkedIn than any other social network? Okay. Every morning engagement. Anybody else? There you go. So that's exactly what helps engage, is if you're an expert on something, or if you are looking for any kind of engage on LinkedIn. I started on LinkedIn pretty early. I'm probably and I do the same thing. I try to post articles. I'm not as good at posting them weekly, but I do engage every morning. I go on, I look at my network, see how I can build it. I'm at over 5,000. I get recruiters emailing me for offers all the time. And it's because I'm still engaged enough that they'll see me. I don't even have open to work, but just by building my network, I constantly have people reaching out to me. So if you see somebody, if you have the opportunity to look on LinkedIn and you start to really search for employees, take the opportunity to look on LinkedIn, take a look at their profile, engage with them even if they haven't applied. I've done that. If somebody hasn't applied and I'm like, oh, this person's actually a really good fit, I've messaged them saying, hey, I know you haven't applied. Can you take a look at this? I'm recruiting for this role. Submit your application. 80% of the time I get, okay, just submit it. And 40% of that I've hired. But just something to think about. LinkedIn is actually something that you guys should all be on, especially as entrepreneurs. Okay. Yes. Oh, I have to wait for Nez. For some odd reason, she hasn't let me do anything. Thank you, Nez.
Thank you. I know this topic today is about recruiting and hiring, but I did want to ask in regards to LinkedIn, do you also feel like you see benefit, like as far as like growth of your business aside from recruiting and hiring?
I know a lot of people use LinkedIn to find their customers. LinkedIn actually has a few different tools, right? LinkedIn has a marketing tool, which we at StartUpNV use, and it's great. So they market to specifics that we want, specific groups of people that we want to engage with. So it's good for marketing. They do targeted ads, yes. They also they have a sales piece too, which is an add-on. So your sales team could also use LinkedIn to find their right customer. So LinkedIn actually, as they've grown, and they've grown as Maggie has said this before, they started their organization with very specifics, right? Like, so they were trying to be a business that, or a site that was a business Facebook. But as their market grew, they started to add on all these different things. And Maggie, I don't know if you're online or not, but she's always said this before. Pick one thing, figure it out, be good at that, then expand. And LinkedIn did a really good job of doing that. So now they have all these other tools, and one of them happens to be sales, another one happens to be marketing, another one happens to be recruiting. They have made a killing on this. I wish I would have invested in LinkedIn. One of the ones I didn't. But yes, you can, it's good for sales. It's actually good for even identifying maybe your competitor, right? What are they doing? Things like that. So yeah, and seeing where they are. And it's actually a really good research tool for businesses as well. So yes, this is exactly why everybody here needs to be on LinkedIn and online. Hi, online. Okay. Recruiting and hiring, applications. Resumes are not legal documents. Applications are. Quick call, behavior-based question. I'm laughing about this because I'll tell you guys a story. Behavior-based questions. So for interviewing, depending on what you're interviewing, this is actually something ChatGPT can pull up for you. Literally put in, can you give me behavior-based questions based on, and it'll, ChatGPT is great. Bias, be aware of tendency towards ourselves, hiring one of us. So that's exactly why I also get my team to interview and not just myself. References, always check. So I'll tell you guys a fun little story. About 6 months ago, I was hiring remotely an individual. And while I was hiring this person, I'm going through the interview process. It was an international hire. Going through this process, and luckily I have, one of my rules is just share your camera when you're interviewing, more because I want to see that you're answering the question and you're engaged in the interview rather than not. Well, luckily I did that because the guy who we interviewed who did incredible was not the guy who showed up on day one. So yeah, always check references and do a quick call. Hold on, because they might be a friend or yeah. Do you want to?
Experience. Okay. Sorry. An experience I had. I got my dream job.
Yeah.
At Sephora to be the warehouse manager. My previous job, was about to file an EEOC claim, but I didn't. I just took a severance package and just left. And I'm telling you to be very careful. If you do have a claim against your company, absolutely pursue it, because this is what can happen. When you take that severance and you have no more legal.
Yeah, because you
can't go after
that agreement.
And then also it puts someone warning not to give you a bad reference when you've done a good job and you've already been harmed by the company. So I get my dream job, get the most amount of money I've ever had, 20% bonus. And they called me back and they said, we're going to rescind your offer. And I said, rescind my offer? What just happened here? Well, what do you think just happened? I got a bad reference from my last company that had already done me wrong. And then doubly dubbed me wrong because now I lost my dream job.
I don't know.
Now, if I filed the EOC claim, they wouldn't have done that. They would have been too fearful to do it. Okay. So I say all this because references, even as a business owner, you
Be smart about them.
be smart, Google people. That's why your social media presence, you don't need to comment on everything about the election or who you're going to vote for or who you don't want somebody voting for and your woman, your man, none of that. Because when I'm a recruiter, I absolutely look at your social media presence and seeing what you're saying. Because if you're disruptive and you're not inclusive and you can cause me to have an EOC claim, I don't care how far we are in the, I rescind the job offer too. Because I know you're going to create a great deal of harm for my business. So as small business owners, we don't have people like me scouring the internet, but just be smart
That's
about
a
it.
law though, right? That you could have gone back and.
But you have to prove it. I went to a lawyer too. They're like, well, Sephora, who is LVMH, is not going to say that. They're not going to put them. She already told me they went to legal.
Yeah.
They went to legal with it. She said, we went to legal with this, LaToya, and you just have to protect yourself when you leave that.
She's the recruiter.
I'm sorry?
She's the one
LaToya Lehman. Did you have a question?
Okay, no, I think she was probably talking to somebody in the room.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to you.
Hi, I just can you hear me? I just wanted to say, so companies, I don't know if you had a personal reference, you put them as a reference, but a company actually can only make you hireable or rehireable or unrehireable.
Yeah,
and they
the city of Las Vegas does that. They cannot give you, and they'll tell you the only questions we can answer is if they are eligible for rehire.
and,
Yeah, no, I know. Oh, I know.
Technically, that's all true.
But a lot of people don't follow that rule.
I'm just saying and I understand, but I think that for us as employers and people looking to rehire, just always, manage and have the narrative in your own company that it's rehireable, it's non-rehirable, candidate, and, just verify the dates that they work, their name, and, sometimes you can do position, but that's it. There's no other thing that you can say after that employee has terminated and, they had another opportunity, and that's it. That keeps your company clean, that keeps you in a position where you are not liable, and it's fair to you and it's fair to them.
I'm with you though. I have an employer, similar situation. LaToya, I would never put on my, I've taken it off LinkedIn because of that reason. And it was that bad. Like it was that bad that I was paid to. Here's your package. I was like, okay.
Hey guys, this is Nolan. So I'm gonna piggyback off what you said in terms of severance, and then I have an option you guys can use for interviewing. Make sure you read your severance agreements. One, I just separated myself from a previous company, and in my severance agreement, they very sneakily added clauses that allowed them to gain my IP developed outside of their company. And I run more than this one business I'm doing now. Had I signed that for the joke of the severance, they would have owned everything that I've created from the date that I was hired. So just be very careful. And they'll some people will dangle carrots in front of you, just walk away.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of just what I did with them. Because of that, I just completely disassociated from anybody part of that company. Mm-hmm. So here's a cool idea in terms of hiring. This is a question I've asked people, and some of my old business partners have asked people. You're gonna laugh, don't judge, but ask people what superpower they would pick if they had an option of 5. Now, what that does is it gives you an idea of the type of person they are in terms of personality and how they would handle situations. If they pick invisibility, it's actually, you can look it up. If they pick invisibility, it's actually a sign of distrust, because why would you need to be invisible to begin with? So like,
I just want to read people's minds. What does that say about me?
right. Well, no, that just, well, so that tells me that that tells me that you're overly inquisitive, and I'm like, okay, well, why? And you might be strategic, because why would you do that, right? So there's not, like, it's not necessarily a nefarious superpower, but invisibility is, right?
Yeah.
Like, so typically I'm like, well, I want to teleport because then I can save myself the commute.
Oh yeah.
But
I just want to be Professor X. I mean, all
Right.
day, right? Like,
so you know it all. But I've actually used that a few times, and luckily, like, the people that you interview and stuff, you can get a vibe, and I've never run into anybody who chose that power. So something to think about. Have fun when you do
Interesting.
your interviews.
I've and this is actually I do this as soon as I get a new team member to start, and it's always optional. Myers-Briggs, I get them to do a Myers-Briggs just for the fun of it. We have fun with it. We'll do some scenario-based, like, conversations, things like that. It's actually really interesting to see how personalities interact with each other. But I like that. I like that. If I'm ever Professor X, I'll let you know. Okay, so great discussion. Oh, we have one more. Okay.
I had a similar thing happen to me in Michigan where I used to live, not with severance, but onboarding. You start reading the paperwork, or I mean, since we're all building companies, you show your employee this document basically saying, yeah, you're going to take all their ideas just because they work for you. And it really is scary if you're the one who's having to sign that piece of paper, because there is a clause that's needed and it says, see, we can actually do a waiver or a amendment. And I presented that to an employer pretty recently too, and they said, just sign the document. Man, who brought this guy in here? Did you? Like, they just started pressing me like that, and I was like, shook his hand and got out of there. So it was
Yeah.
a really ugly onboarding thing, even though you're excited.
Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, I totally agree with you. There has to be, I think, some kind of language if you're uncomfortable with it, and if you are somebody that builds tech or, creates different solutions, that it should only be while you're at work, specifically to your role. Here's why I say that. When you guys hire, you're going to want the same paper signed by an employee, because you're startups. You're working on something new, right? So as you're building your product, yes, be mindful of what the wording is. Add something in there specifically, related to your where they work and their time during. But know that there'll come a point where you will probably want that same document signed. So think about it before, when you actually put that document together, how you want it worded. Hi, hold on. Yeah.
Thank you. Earlier, you said that you wouldn't hire anyone that's not a good fit for the team. But what if your team is mediocre? Because there are some environments where the team is not willing to grow, but you have a new hire that's very ambitious that can actually raise the productivity of your team. Would you still not hire that person?
Okay, so this is a long answer to this question. So if I have a mediocre team, I will tell you, I will do everything in my power to coach and develop them, to figure out how to improve, because I'm still looking for a good fit for my team at the end of the day. It's not that I'm looking for somebody that'll take them to the next level. I want each team member to be accountable. I want them to be responsible, and I want them to bring to the table what I need them to do or to bring. And if they're not there, I'm invested in doing my best to help coach and develop each of my team members to get them there. I am not the person to let anybody go. That's the last straw. If it's a good, solid employee that shows up every day, gives 110, and at the end of the day, they just aren't a good fit for my role in my team, I actually go out to the rest of the organization and see if there's a better fit for this person somewhere else. So I'll reach out to the people team. I'll try to figure out, hey, here are the skill sets. Here's the, where I see they're really talented. What do we have that I can, I don't want to hire somebody that is now responsible for that whole team unless they're their manager. Does that make sense? Okay. Well, oh, please. Oh, please.
Hey guys, it's Nolan again. I was just saying that sometimes like you'll get like people that are just in a funk. They have, going through life stuff and you have to evaluate that. I've been in that position where I have to look at like my team as an extension of me, and I'm like, I'm going through something with my kid or something. Hopefully they can back me up. You have to kind of figure out if it's a personality trait that's permanent or something that's temporary that's happening within, the time that they're with you. And if you can help them out, like, people are people, help them out. All right, pass it.
I just wanted to say to that, sometimes it's, to your point, sometimes it's us. People that are in leadership roles, in places of influence. And sometimes it's us who have the issue and we have to take a moment. But like they say, it rolls downhill. So that's true. But I wanted to say something about people leaving the company, and it's so important the way people exit, not only for you as a company, in terms of being liable, but it's very important that they feel good about the work they did and that it's a good relationship no matter what happens that they're leaving, so they can go on and feel good about themselves. But for business owners and for companies, I think the biggest thing that people kind of need to understand sometimes, and I think we all understand it, is that when you lose someone that's been around for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, you lose their knowledge. You lose their understanding of the company. You're attriting. So it's going to take so much to hire that person. It's then going to take so much to train them. And it's going to be at least 6 months to a year before you get them to function and really understand your ecosystems. So I think that's something to look at too. It's
Yep,
very
the first
costly to
year that
attrit.
employee's a loss. You're spending money. You're not making really any return from a new employee until after their first year. So you're right. And one more thing before I go on to the next slide. To your point, get to know your team. If you have a high performing member, and this goes back to the gentleman that is doing their causes, mental health and well-being. Get to know your team. If you have a high performing member that all of a sudden is no longer performing, ask the question, are you okay? What's happening? Have that conversation. You'd be surprised at how life just hits somebody. So that's always really important. I stand by that, right? If you see anything off. Hi.
Hi, I've been on LinkedIn for a while. I just want to say this is a great opportunity when you've got sort of a vetted, quasi-vetted, I don't know all you all, but group that, where, because and to be careful. So I think, so we about a dozen of us have already connected while we've been talking on LinkedIn right here, right now. So just say Incubate and you can connect with me and I'll connect with you. And I'll say though, watch out for spam. I've been seeing more and more. So the way you can tell, like if it's somebody that you don't know, take a really close look at their profile. And if they just started the day before and they're, how to say this politically correctly, if they're really kind of dolled up and stuff like that, maybe be a little bit wary. And then they want to say, hey, let's go on to WhatsApp, and you gotta watch out for that. So just, but so it's really valuable when you do have a group like this where everybody, has been quasi vetted. Like I say, you can kind of build your group. And I don't know, it doesn't make that big of a difference on LinkedIn for an algorithm, but for like YouTube, and if anybody has YouTube channels like I do, it's really hard to get subscribers, so we could all help each other very, very easily and, raise our rankings and algorithms by connecting with each other. So
yeah, I agree. If you guys are on any social media platforms, and of course this is voluntary, share it on Slack. We have a whole Slack channel. Drop it in there, share it, follow each other. I promote that. I'm literally the only Rakshana Hussein in Vegas, so I'm very easy to find.
What does quasi mean? What does quasi mean?
What does quasi mean? Multiple.
quasi means almost approved, like not quite 100%, but
Almost.
B plus, a little bit unknown, some unknown, tentative, a little bit better than tentative.
Okay, so understand how to build your organization structure and team to meet your current and future company objectives. I'm going to try to fly through this, guys. Reflect on these questions. Hopefully, we'll have some time near the end where we can. This is the slide. I was going to break you guys out into your teams, but we're going to fly through this, come back to it, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. Reflect on these questions. How will you fill out your team or your management team? How might your role change as the business evolves? How can you hire the best people for your team? What sort of outside resources should you bring in and when? Do you need an advisory board or a board of directors? Outside resources, employees versus contractors. Employees, you must usually provide them with their tools and equipment, withhold and remit taxes to the government, and comply with a large body of employment regulations. Contractors don't require any of these things, and if you pay a contractor more than $600 in a year, you must inform the IRS using a Form 1099, but otherwise tax obligations are minimal. Legal, if you are seeking legal advice, make sure you are a good fit and understand their particular business expertise. Accounting and bookkeeping can help you set financial achievements, analyzing financial information against industry standards, complete tax forms, and more. Marketing consultants, some firms will help business owners with total marketing plans, while others specialize in certain fields such as direct mail, research, regional studies, or product and brand positioning. Okay, advisory boards. This is more Maggie's expertise, but I will do my best here. Two types. Entrepreneurs use advisory boards in many ways, but the ultimate goal is to get ideas, advice, and direction from experts. Advisory board members may be scientific or technology experts, bankers, marketing consultants, industry experts, financial consultants, customers, or other established entrepreneurs. Anyone you feel can add your wealth of, or add to your wealth of knowledge. Directors, board of directors are much more formal than advisory boards. The company is organized as a corporation and must have a board of directors. The board makes the big picture decisions and elects officers. They have the fiduciary responsibility to the company and shareholders. And I think board of directors also have the final say, from my understanding. But if you guys have questions, don't forget, you do have the Canva. It's called Canva, right? Canva, you do have your experts on there that actually can help you with this. So drop your questions and thoughts in there. Board governance, bylaws. Most boards outline a set of bylaws that specifically lay out responsibilities and powers. Bylaws should clearly state who has the ultimate authority for making decisions about the company, whether the advice of the board is binding, and whether things like compensation and employment decisions are the bylaws. Should also include term limits for board members. By rotating board members on and off the board, you always ensure fresh perspective. I know a lot of organizations that will rotate them every 2 to 3 years. Some, not by choice. Okay. Oh, I don't know.
You can have one.
Somebody in the room said you can have one for now. If you do have more questions, is Maggie online today? No, right? No. If you want to Slack Maggie, she can also probably help you with some of the board questions. But as somebody has stated in the room, you can have one for now. Hold on, I have a question. Oh, please. It's okay. More of a statement. Oh, please.
So this is to the board. When you choose a classification for like a C Corp or S Corp, Nevada requires you guys to assemble a board. And within that assembly, there are rules like governing rules from the state that say you have to have certain amount of meetings per like quarter or whatnot. And that's required by the state. But I'm gonna kick it back to Maggie, ask her, because she's the expert on this topic right now.
Maggie knows all. Maggie, she's gonna kill me when she sees this. Maggie knows all. Okay. Okay. Did I do this one already? No. Looking back at building the organization and the team. One of the hardest things to do for many entrepreneurs is to begin trusting others with portions of the business. But by building out management team and a series of advisors, you'll free yourself to focus on your company vision. In this lesson, we reviewed management teams, how to set them up and hire for them, the sort of outside resources you might need to bring in, the differences between advisory boards and board of directors. Okay, so before we go to thank you, we have 12 minutes. I want to break you guys off to the group. People online, please go ahead and have a discussion. Let's talk about the best recruiting experience you had versus the worst. Let's talk about your the one job that you had, even though you might have left it for whatever reason, you were most engaged in. You were really bought into the company values and you wanted that company to succeed, versus the one that you just really felt like you weren't appreciated. So break into groups, talk about that, take notes, listen to each other's experiences, and try to do the things that are important and you recognize that other people really appreciate it and the reasons they stayed versus the reasons they leave, or the reasons they took or didn't take the role. Okay, so let's break off for 5 minutes and then we'll have some people answer questions. Go ahead online.
All right, online folks, you can either respond in the chat or if you want to come off mute. If anyone has an experience that really stood out to them, types of things that really mattered at a company that made it a positive experience, or, you know, significant red flags that made it.
Hi, this is Jo.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Jolena. One of the best experiences that I had was with an employer during the pandemic, and how they adjusted quickly to the needs of their employees as far as time off and sick pay, and being able to go in an organization that didn't have sick pay, like the people who worked there didn't have PTO, but because they needed to keep their jobs in order to feed their families, they adjusted quickly. And so that was really nice. We also had a lot of input into policies and procedures of the company. And with each new hire, they were given a mentor right away, so that they didn't have to try to find a person to help coach them up. And so those are all really wonderful things about that organization.
Nice. Sounds like they really cared about their people on a number of fronts, and that was consistent. Thank you for sharing. Who else?
Oh, okay, you guys can hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just I'd like to share an experience, and back in the day, I was working retail. I was working at Sur La Table, but the interview process for that was it just seemed ridiculous. Like, there was you send an application, and then after that there was like a phone interview, and then there was like an in-person interview, and then there was like a training session. I don't know, there were like 4 or 5 steps, and then after that, like, they would be hiring like so many people. So when I started working, they only gave me like 8 hours in the entire week, and I'm like, what? I thought I was working part-time or full-time. And so a lot of people that started working there was like they would just quit because they were getting the hours that they thought they'd be working. So I was just thinking about that experience where maybe instead of going through such a lengthy process for a retail position, I wonder if there's a better system. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Definitely. I think it's important for your time to be valued. And it sounds like, at least my takeaway from that is setting realistic expectations up front. Being clear as an employer about what the expectation is on the other side. So that you know upfront if you want to invest your time going through that entire process. Is the juice worth the squeeze? See how that would be frustrating.
Yeah, this is Rachel. I would like to share an experience that I've had not too long ago. A job that I recently left, and this is for a home for people with mental and physical disabilities. And so when I was hired, it was expected of me to manage the home, including the staff that was to work with the individuals. And so it appeared everything was going great with the experience until management over me were getting notifications about the well-being of individuals, such as the grooming, you know, problems and pains the individuals were experiencing that was not addressed. So once those problems weren't addressed after time and were reported to management above this management, things went to a different level where I was being forced to go to another home instead of the management above me getting these services for the individuals. That was just one of the negative experiences that I had, but also with working at one point with the Department of Child and Family Services for youth, it was a great experience. I felt that my time and experience was appreciated, and they did a good job with allowing the staff to assist the individuals' needs outside of just looking at it as a program where the individuals, the program would get paid after off of the youth that was there. So I had my share of ups and downs and being a manager and also being an employee. And it seems to me that once a different position is different position is held, that things could turn for the worse, is when you're trying to do right by what is expected for any individual, any customer. Things could turn different in some cases. Well, at least in my case. That's all I wanted to share.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Definitely important to hear your employees' perspective and input and feedback, as well as your customers, and make sure that
Okay, hi guys.
feel heard.
Okay, so I am going to start with, I don't want to whistle because it's going to get very loud.
It did.
So let's start with this group since they just volunteered. Do you guys want to give us an example of, let's start with the recruiting experience from this team.
Okay.
What
Your
was it
name's
really?
again?
Come on up.
Ariel? Sagadio.
Come on up. We're going to give you the podium.
Sagadio and Ariel. We all had good experiences and some tough experiences. We both had Sagadio and I both shared experiences of being let go, and how wonderful it was to have supportive people around you. So if you ever have to, it's really nice when managers reach out, but she didn't see that, and it's kind of a vacuum when she left. One thing I didn't talk about, I've had a very bad, I didn't talk about in the group, but I think this is useful maybe for everybody. I'm not the best hiring manager. So my new company is, Chiron AI Biotech. The reason it's called Chiron.ai is I'm not going to have any human employees. I'm going to have a digital CFO, a digital internal counsel, and this is sort of like the next generation of artificial intelligence beyond Gen A. It's like you have an army of agents. So I'll have internal counsel, accounting, bookkeeping. Each one will have a name. So I'm not going to tell you which platforms I'm using yet. We'll see how it goes. It might fail miserably, but something that could be added to the slide is sort of like a future thing that's coming, that you're going to hear a lot more and more buzz about it. So that's something that I'm looking at. And then that kind of changes all the parameters around building. You have people that work 24/7, blah, blah, blah. So it'll be kind of interesting to see, but it's happening. So
Yeah, no, it definitely is. And you also have fractional. You guys haven't thought about it. If you're not ready to be as bold and brave as him right now and you want to do fractional, you actually can find fractional CFOs, CEOs, and everything on LinkedIn too. COO, so just some food for thought. You also can do staff aug. But let me know how that goes. I'm curious. And let's take somebody online. Does somebody want to volunteer speak?
Shelly has her hand raised, if you'd like to.
1 second. We got to turn up the volume here. Is this? Nope. Okay.
Is it Shelly? Sheely? Shelie?
It's Shelly.
Okay.
You were right the first time.
Okay, Shelly.
Okay,
What
so
do you
I
have an
just- I-
example of? Recruiting or actually in an employer experience, good and bad?
Just kind of an employer experience, I think.
Okay.
So the last employer that I worked for, I was a recruiter, and one of our recruiters left, and his accounts were up for grabs. Like I was literally like ready and the best person capable to take over that person's accounts when they left. And this was a small company, so it was just kind of, run by a mom and daughter team. And the daughter didn't really like her, and I didn't really agree on things. So she decided to give the accounts to somebody who was nowhere near, as ready as I was to take over those accounts. And so for me, that made me lose my motivation. I'm like, okay, what am I working towards if, like, I'm putting my full effort, I'm there, day in, day out. I'm like creating new, systems and stuff like that for them. And it just felt like my efforts were not validated at that point. So I just kind of like decided, okay, well, maybe this isn't the right fit for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my
You wanna
experience.
give
I
it-
just feel like sometimes, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, so I was saying, just I feel like sometimes you have to even if it's like you were saying earlier on a personal level, like if you don't feel like it's the best, like you get along with the person, but if they're a good fit for the position and they get along with the team, which I did, I got along very well with everybody, and it was just the daughter and I didn't really click, and she was the one that decided like, oh no, let's give these accounts to somebody else. So I was like, okay, well, I didn't feel valued as an employee. And I feel like that's something that's very important to realize when you're hiring, to make sure your employees feel valuable.
That is a tough position to be in. So do you have an experience of an organization that you worked for that you were so happy that you joined? You may not be with them now, but you felt like, I want to build my team like this.
I did. Actually, prior to this, when I was in California, I worked for a wholesaler, and he was very entrepreneurial. He started out very small, grew massive in that particular industry, but he always gave his employees the opportunity to apply for a different department. Like, if he would open a different division, he would look and ask within the company, like, okay, who wants to either switch over or try out the new department. And it just kind of made the employees feel like, okay, we want to work here because there's chances to grow, with the company. And it gives you new opportunities, because sometimes, sometimes you're just looking for a job, but then within that company, your dream job comes along. So
yeah.
So within that company, I started out as like a shipping clerk, and then I moved into house sales. And from there, I did a lot of traveling with the company, and it was like a dream job. And it was an opportunity that he gave a lot of his internal employees before outsourcing. I feel like that's something that makes your employees feel valued.
I
Made me
so.
feel valued. Yeah.
I think that's important, to look at your own talent to see how you can grow them into the roles that are coming in the future, and to hire when you can't fill that with the people you have internally. 1 second. I think we have one question back there. Do we? No. Okay.
Thank you. I was gonna ask to you, since you said you did HR, and then maybe to the room too.
HR is behind you. I've just done a lot of hiring and team building.
Okay, this
So-
this goes along with it because earlier in the lesson you said that the first year a hire actually costs you money
Yeah.
and you lose money on it.
Mhm.
If that is the case, why aren't more companies focused on retention? Because from what I've experienced and the experiences of others in research is that companies do not offer raises, but they do offer the newer employees higher pay. So it's almost as it's an incentive for someone to quit the job and job hop to someone somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Yes, there is a small percentage of organizations that I have worked with that will do that. And I've seen it happen, and it's not great. And unfortunately, it's people that are tenured that they will release to go and hire somebody that they feel will have newer and fresher ideas, because I'm not going to get into, yeah. But I will tell you that I think for most organizations, for the organizations that I tend to work with, retention is actually a key performance indicator for most managers. And correct me if I'm wrong, my HR people in the room. Employee retention is huge for a lot of managers. So if you have high turnover, the likelihood of your boss or even that executive level coming back and taking a look at you and trying to figure out why is your retention higher than other people, that is actually, that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing for the manager. That's not a good thing for the organization. Most organizations that are more mature have that as a part of a performance indicator, either written or not. It's something they keep an eye on. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. Just totally depends on the company and their values and how they run their organization. And that again kind of goes back to at the initial stages of interviewing, remember that it's a two-way street. If you're on the potential employee side, and try and get insight into how much they value and invest in their employees. And then as an employer, think about that for you as well in your interview process. You really want to hire the best candidate possible and then continue to invest and develop them, because that will save you a lot of money.
I have actually
a great investment.
Yeah, I agree. I've actually asked during an interview for one of my roles if I can speak to people I'd be working with. There's a few interviews that I've said I was not sure about the management, was not sure about some of the stuff on Glassdoor. I was not sure about a lot. So I've asked to speak to other team members of the job I'd be joining to have a better understanding. You'd be surprised at how candid they are. So always, if you guys are, hiring, and if somebody says, can I speak to a team member, let them, right? But know that they're going to give a candid response. Question in the room.
Another question, just if everybody wanted to steal a page out of this very good coach named Mr. William Campbell. He was the only guy to get Google and Apple to work together back in the heyday. And what his tactic was to fight. Sometimes you gotta let somebody go, heaven forbid. But when he let him go, he actually helped him find another job. And that's actually something that I will always remember with whatever I might do in life. Because if I was on either side of that ball, it'd be cool to just be a part of, And even if it's a piece of paper with references to different industry competitors, it still says a long way for your reputation. And you never know, right?
So here's where I'm going to make you guys laugh. The best organization, I'll give you an example before we wrap up because we're already over time. The best organization I've ever worked for is a company called Instapage, post-click. And not only did I have a great experience with everybody there, and I love the team that I managed, but the CEO, and I hope they watch this, and the COO, their names were Mark and Imran. And they had to do a round of really hard layoffs. Did you know they messaged me frequently and put their contacts in front of me to say, hey, I know this person. We had to lay her off. but she's amazing. I think you should interview. They left things on my LinkedIn. If you go to my LinkedIn today, you'll see comments from Mark and, you know, and Roxy on there that they all rallied for the employees that had to lay off. They didn't want to, but it was a hard decision that they had to make. And I promise you, they kept up with me until I found something else. That was my best experience. And it was because the way they cared for me and my well-being and my employment status after. So think about that. Okay, guys. So Wednesday, right? I'm not going to say next week. Wednesday. I'll see you on Wednesday. Oh, we have one more? One more. Okay.
I've
so-
got one last comment.
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
Because I'm going to bring this back to like almost like 2 classes ago. How you like treat people in your company, how you let them go or how you onboard them, that is going to be a version of your brand as a company. If you can, to the gentleman in the back, Richard Branson did the same thing. He cultivated his employees to the point where they became brand champions. And even though they might have had a round of layoffs just like you, your experience is a perfect example of that. You will probably look at them with high regard and always champion what those guys are doing.
He's one of them started their own company, and I repost their stuff all the time.
Exactly.
Just because
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan.
And so when you're trying to do the employee retention piece of your business, that's a big part of it. And if you notice, if you look at companies where the retention is just like a revolving door, it's kind of a good signal if the company's not doing very well because somebody at the top's not listening to the culture or the environment. So just keep that stuff in mind.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, guys. So I will see you all Wednesday, not next week, but Wednesday. And don't forget, hold on, I gotta click through here. Nope, it broke it. Don't forget to sign in if you haven't. Do your post if you could. We'd really love your feedback. You could do the halfway mark survey. Provide us some feedback on how we could do better. Mid-program survey. And then don't forget to sign up for the hour or the time slot that you want for pitch day. I really encourage all of you guys to do it. This is a safe space. I'll be here maybe with some courage juice if I'm allowed to bring it, which might be the Kirkland Grey Goose fuck. But so just, like I said, just do it. It'll help you guys get familiar, get used to it. And it's always fun to do with a room of people you also know are in the same situation as, right? That's, what day is it, Inez? Friday, Saturday. When is it? 14th, 15th. There you go.
Shauna, could you put the first slide up again so that folks can grab the demo day QR code if they have not?
There you go.
Middle one, you can go ahead and sign up for a slot.
And don't forget, who's going to join me at Ignite? Who's coming? There's a free drink. That's at Fandom. When is it? When is it? When's Ignite? June 20th. Oh, are you? Yes. I will buy you some courage shoes. I need to stop saying that. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you all.